The ground shook with such violence that Alex Reed nearly dropped the sample container. Through the reinforced windows of the research station, something massive moved between the trees. Something that had no business being this close to Dawn Colony. Alex pressed against the glass, watching two creatures the size of cargo shuttles tear into each other with savage fury. The colonists called them Ravagers, though the official xenobiology database listed them as apex carnivorous megafauna, species classification pending. Their bodies were covered in dark scales that seemed to absorb light, and their jaws could crush stone. Right now, those jaws were locked around each other's throats. The fight lasted 3 minutes. When it ended, both Ravagers lay dead in a clearing, half a kilometer from the colony perimeter. Alex grabbed a field kit and ran toward the scene before anyone could stop the expedition. Dr. Orrin Wells shouted something from behind, but Alex ignored him. This was the closest anyone had ever gotten to deceased Ravagers. Most creatures on Reach 7 avoided these predators entirely. The chance to study them was too important to miss. The clearing smelled like copper and something else, something alien that made Alex's nose wrinkle. Both creatures had torn each other apart with horrible efficiency. Their blood was dark purple, almost black, and it steamed in the afternoon air. Alex activated the scanning equipment, taking readings of everything possible. That was when the sound came. A high-pitched chirping, almost like birds but with a resonance that seemed wrong for something avian. Alex followed the sound to a depression in the ground, hidden beneath one of the dead Ravagers' massive tails. The nest was crude but functional, lined with shredded vegetation and what looked like the bones of smaller animals. Inside, 5 creatures no larger than house cats huddled together. They had the same dark scales as the adults but softer, almost flexible. Their eyes were too large for their heads, giving them an appearance that hit something deep in Alex's brain, the part that responded to anything young and helpless. "Oh no," Alex whispered. "You're babies." The hatchlings chirped again, pressing against each other. They were cold. Without the warmth of a parent, they would not survive the night. Reach 7's temperature dropped dramatically after sunset. Alex reached for the radio. "Wells, I need you to see this. Bring the thermal carrier." 20 minutes later, Dr. Wells stood beside the nest with his arms crossed. He was a practical man. Someone who had worked on 6 different colony worlds and seen more death than most people could imagine. His face showed exactly what he thought of the situation. "They're predators, Alex, the same species that killed 4 colonists last year." "They're infants," Alex said. "They had nothing to do with that. They will when they grow up. Those things get 5 meters long and weigh over a ton. You want that near the colony? I want them to have a chance." Before Wells could respond, a shuttle descended from orbit. It bore the symbol of the Galactic Council, a circle of stars representing the dozens of species that governed settled space. The shuttle landed with practiced precision, and Ambassador Trill emerged. Trill was Kelson, an insectoid species with 4 arms and compound eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. The ambassador approached the nest, observed the hatchlings for exactly 10 seconds, and then spoke in the clicking, translated voice that came from a device on their thorax. "Council protocol is clear. Dangerous fauna that threatens settlements must be eliminated. This includes juveniles of apex predator species." "They're not threatening anyone," Alex said, stepping between Trill and the nest. "They're orphans. They are the offspring of creatures that killed your own people. In 6 months, they will be large enough to pose a danger. In a year, they will be fully capable of hunting humans. The logical action is euthanization." Alex felt something harden in their chest. "No," Trill's antennae twitched. "This is not a debate, then make it one. Call Director Hayes. Call the whole colony council. I'll take responsibility for these hatchlings. I'll raise them, study them, and ensure they never pose a threat to anyone. That is impossible. No one has ever domesticated a Ravager, because no one has ever tried raising them from birth. Look at them, Ambassador. They're imprinting right now. Whatever they learn in the next few months will shape their entire behavioral development. If I raise them, they won't see humans as prey. They'll see us as family." Wells made a choking sound. "Alex, you can't be serious. These are not puppies. They're killing machines." "Every species is a killing machine to someone," Alex said, not taking eyes off Trill. "Humans were persistence predators back on Earth. We hunted our food to exhaustion over days. Half the species in the council are descended from prey animals. They're terrified of predators because their ancestors were food. But we're not. We understood them. We domesticated wolves into dogs. We made partners out of creatures that should have been our enemies. Trill was silent for a long moment. The ambassador's forearms moved in complex patterns, a sign of deep thought in Kelson body language. You would stake your reputation on this? Your career? Yes, and if they become dangerous? If they attack colonists? Then I'll take full responsibility. But give me a chance to prove it can work. 90 days. If they show any signs of aggression toward humans after 90 days, we can revisit the decision. Trill's antennae drooped. A gesture Alex had learned meant resignation. Very well. 90 days. But they will be monitored constantly. Any sign of dangerous behavior and this experiment ends. Permanently. Alex nodded and turned back to the nest. The smallest hatchling was shivering more than the others. Without thinking, Alex reached down and scooped it up. The creature was warm, its scales soft like leather. It chirped once, a sound of distress, and then pressed against Alex's chest where it could feel the heartbeat. The other 4 hatchlings looked up with those 2 large eyes. They chirped in unison, a sound that might have been a question. Alex knelt and gathered them all into the thermal carrier Wells had brought. They huddled together inside, already quieter now that they had warmth. This is insane, Wells muttered as they walked back toward the research station. Probably, Alex agreed, but they deserve a chance. Behind them, Ambassador Trill watched the human carry 5 future apex predators toward the colony like they were precious cargo. The ambassador made a note in their personal log. Humans were strange creatures, driven by emotion in ways that defied logic. This would either be a breakthrough in interspecies relations or a complete disaster. Trill suspected it would be both. Week 1 nearly broke Alex. The hatchlings refused everything. Synthesized protein paste, vitamin-enriched gel, even raw meat from the colony's food stores. They chirped constantly, a sound that started as pitiful and gradually became angry. Their scales lost shine, and they moved less with each passing day. Alex had not slept more than 2 hours at a time since bringing them to the modified enclosure behind the research station. The space was large, climate-controlled, and completely secure. It was also becoming a tomb if Alex could not figure out what the creatures needed. They're dying, Dr. Wells said on the 7th day. He stood outside the enclosure, watching through the observation window. You need to accept that. Alex sat on the floor inside, surrounded by 5 increasingly lethargic hatchlings. The smallest one, the first one Alex had picked up, barely moved anymore. Its breathing was shallow and its eyes had started to dim. There has to be something, Alex said. In nature, what would they eat? Their parents would hunt for them, bring back kills, but we don't know what kind of kills. The Ravagers range over hundreds of kilometers. They could eat anything. Alex thought about that. Hunted meat, fresh kills. Something clicked in the back of the mind. A memory from xenobiology training. Predator young often needed specific enzymes found only in fresh prey. Synthesized food lacked those compounds. I need live animals, Alex said, standing up quickly. Small ones. Native to reach 7. Wells frowned. You mean prey? I mean food, real food. Their digestive systems need something we're not providing. 2 hours later, Alex returned with 6 small creatures that looked like a cross between rabbits and lizards. The colonists called them hoppers. They were common, not protected, and they reproduced quickly enough that the ecosystem could spare a few dozen. Alex released one hopper into the enclosure. It bounded toward the corner, confused by the strange environment. The 5 hatchlings did not move at first. Then something changed. One of them, a hatchling with a distinctive lighter patch on its snout, lifted its head. Its nostrils flared. The movement was sudden. The hatchling lunged forward with speed that should not have been possible for something so weak moments before. Its jaws closed around the hopper and the small creature went still. The hatchling fed with desperate intensity. The others followed. Within minutes, all 6 hoppers were gone, and the hatchlings were more alert than they had been in days. Alex nearly cried with relief. Live prey, Wells said from outside the enclosure. Of course. They need the hunt even at this age. Or they need the freshness, Alex said. Either way it works. The smallest hatchling, the one Alex had started thinking of as Pip, approached slowly. It looked up with those large eyes, and then it did something unexpected. It pressed its head against Alex's leg and made a soft chirring sound. Did it just thank you? Wells asked. I don't know what it did, Alex admitted, reaching down carefully to touch the creature's head. The scales were already regaining their shine. But it's the first positive interaction we've had. From that day forward, feeding time became a ritual. Alex would release appropriate prey into the enclosure, always under controlled conditions, and the hatchlings would hunt. They grew stronger. They grew larger. And they grew attached to Alex in ways that defied everything known about Ravagers. By week 3, they followed Alex around the enclosure like ducklings. When Alex sat down to record observations, they would curl up nearby, their body heat creating a warm bubble. When Alex spoke, they would tilt their heads and listen, their eyes tracking every movement. Pip remained the smallest, but also the boldest. The little Ravager was always the first to approach, the first to try new things, and the first to defend the others when they quarreled over food. Alex spent extra time with Pip, making sure the smaller hatchling got adequate nutrition. On day 23, Pip got sick. The hatchling stopped eating and developed a fever so intense that its scales felt hot to the touch. Alex moved Pip into a smaller temperature-controlled chamber and did not leave for 3 days straight. Wells brought food and water, leaving them inside the chamber door. He did not argue anymore. He had seen the bond forming, and even his practical nature could not deny what was happening. Alex cooled Pip's body with damp cloths, administered broad-spectrum antibiotics designed for reptilian biology, and talked constantly. Nonsense words, descriptions of Earth, stories from childhood, anything to let Pip know that someone was there. On the 3rd night, Pip's fever broke. The hatchling opened its eyes, focused on Alex's face, and made that soft churring sound again. Then it did something that made Alex's breath catch. Pip reached out with one small clawed foot and placed it on Alex's hand. The gesture was deliberate, gentle, and unmistakably affectionate. "You're going to be fine," Alex whispered. "I've got you." By week 4, all 5 hatchlings were healthy and growing at an alarming rate. They had doubled in size, their scales hardening into proper armor. Their claws grew sharper, their jaws stronger. They began displaying pack behavior, working together during feeding time, defending each other from perceived threats. Alex implemented basic training. Simple commands at first: come, stay, stop. The hatchlings learned with shocking speed, responding to both voice and hand signals. They were intelligent, far more than anyone had suspected. Dr. Wells compiled the data with something approaching excitement. "This is groundbreaking, Alex. They're exhibiting social bonding behaviors never documented in adult Ravagers. They see you as pack leader." "Or parent," Alex said, watching the 5 creatures play fight in the enclosure. They were gentle with each other, pulling their strikes, learning boundaries. "They're not wild animals anymore. There's something else." "That's what worries me," Wells admitted. "What happens when they're fully grown? When they're powerful enough to hurt someone by accident?" Alex did not have an answer for that. Not yet. On day 28, Ambassador Trill made an inspection visit. The Kelson diplomat observed the hatchlings for over an hour, watching them interact with Alex, respond to commands, and demonstrate their learned behaviors. "They are larger than I anticipated," Trill said, "already approaching 1 meter in length." "They're growing fast," Alex agreed. "But they're gentle, watch." Alex entered the enclosure, and immediately all 5 hatchlings rushed forward. They pressed against Alex from all sides, churring and clicking in greeting. Pip climbed directly onto Alex's shoulders, a position the smallest hatchling had claimed as personal territory. Trill's antennae twitched rapidly. "You have created something unprecedented. I am uncertain whether that is positive or concerning." "Can't it be both?" Before Trill could respond, alarms blared across the colony. Security alerts flooded the communication channels. Something had breached the perimeter near the research station. Something large. Alex and Trill rushed outside to find a wild Ravager at the enclosure wall. It was a juvenile, perhaps 2 years old, already larger than a ground vehicle. It had scented the hatchlings and was attempting to break through the reinforced barrier. The 5 hatchlings inside went silent. They huddled together at the far end of the enclosure, instinct telling them they were in danger, all except Pip. The smallest hatchling stood at the front, scales raised, teeth bared in challenge at the much larger predator. "Get to safety," Wells shouted, pulling Trill back toward the main building. Alex did not move. The wild Ravager slammed against the wall again, and this time the barrier cracked. One more hit would bring it down. The creature would kill the hatchlings and anyone nearby. Without thinking, Alex ran toward the wall, shouting and waving arms. The wild Ravager turned, focusing on this new potential threat. Its eyes were nothing like the hatchling's eyes. They were cold, calculating, predatory. It charged. Alex dove aside at the last moment, hitting the ground hard enough to knock breath from lungs. The Ravager turned for another attack, but then something changed. 5 shapes burst from the damaged enclosure wall, moving with coordinated precision. The hatchlings attacked the wild Ravager as a pack. They were tiny compared to it, but they were fast and they worked together. They harried it from all sides, biting at legs, clawing at eyes. The wild Ravager roared in confusion and pain. Alex struggled to their feet, shouting the stop command. The hatchlings broke off immediately, retreating to form a protective circle around Alex. The wild Ravager, bleeding from a dozen small wounds, fled back into the jungle. Ambassador Trill stood at a distance, all forearms trembling. They defended you. Their pack, Alex said, kneeling to check each hatchling for injuries. They were unharmed. Pip climbed back onto Alex's shoulders, churring softly. This is what they've learned. Protection, loyalty, family. That night, Alex filed a report with the Galactic Council. The 90-day trial period was ending, and a decision needed to be made about the hatchling's future. Alex included all the behavioral data, all the evidence of their socialization, and a personal request to continue the program. Ambassador Trill added a note to the report, a single line that carried significant weight. This human has achieved what my people would consider impossible. I recommend extension of the trial period indefinitely. The hatchlings slept in their repaired enclosure, curled together in a pile with Pip on top, keeping watch. Alex watched them through the observation window and wondered what the future would bring. Whatever it was, these 5 creatures had changed everything. They had proven that predators could be more than their nature. They could be family, and Alex would protect that family with everything they had. 3 months after the trial extension, the enclosure needed its 4th expansion. The hatchlings were hatchlings no longer. Each creature measured over 2 meters from snout to tail, their bodies thick with muscle beneath armored scales. They moved with the fluid grace of natural predators, every motion efficient and purposeful. Alex stood in the center of the expanded space, working through training exercises. The 5 Ravagers sat in a semicircle, attention focused completely on their human caretaker. They had learned over 30 distinct commands and could perform complex sequences of behaviors on cue. Scout, perimeter check, Alex said, using the name that had naturally emerged for the Ravager with the lighter snout patch. The creature rose and began a methodical patrol of the enclosure boundaries. Nose to the ground, searching for any changes or intrusions. Steady, climb, Alex continued, addressing the largest of the group. That Ravager approached the climbing structure Alex had built and scaled it with surprising agility for something that weighed nearly 200 kilograms. The remaining 3 waited patiently. Hunter, named for being the most effective during feeding exercises. Swift, the fastest of the group. And Pip, still the smallest but undeniably the leader. When the others had disputes, Pip settled them. When danger threatened, Pip took the front position. The little Ravager had grown into the role of alpha without any human intervention. News of Alex's success had spread through the Galactic Council networks like fire through dry grass. The human who tamed predators. The research station received messages daily from scientists, politicians, and journalists across dozens of worlds. Some messages praised the work. Others condemned it as dangerous and irresponsible. Director Hayes addressed the Colony Council in the main administration building, his face showing the stress of managing a settlement that had become galactically famous overnight. We have 3 more ships requesting permission to land. Everyone wants to see the Ravagers. We're not equipped to handle this kind of attention. Then tell them no, Dr. Wells suggested. He had become Alex's strongest supporter, documenting every aspect of the Ravager's development for scientific publication. It's not that simple, Hayes said. One of the ships carries a Krell delegation. You don't say no to the Krell. The Krell were legendary throughout Council space, a warrior culture that had unified their planet through strength and discipline. They now served as peacekeepers and military advisors to dozens of worlds. They were efficient, honorable, and absolutely terrifying when provoked. 3 days later, 4 Krell warriors walked through Dawn Colony like they owned it. Each stood over 2 meters tall, their bodies covered in interlocking plates of natural armor. They carried no visible weapons, but their claws and raw strength made weapons redundant. Alex met them at the research station, trying to project calm confidence. Pip stood beside Alex, scales slightly raised in wariness. The little Ravager had grown protective of Alex whenever strangers approached. The lead Krell, who introduced herself as Commander Rax, studied Pip with interest. "This is the one called Pip?" "Yes," Alex said. "The pack leader. Small for a leader. Size isn't everything." Rax made a sound that might have been laughter. "No, it is not. Show us what they can do." Alex spent 2 hours demonstrating the Ravager's training. They performed flawlessly, responding to verbal commands, hand signals, and even whistled cues. They worked together to solve problems, retrieve specific objects, and navigate obstacle courses. The Krell watched everything with intense focus. "Impressive," Rax said finally. "You have turned wild predators into disciplined soldiers." "They're not soldiers," Alex said carefully. "They're animals I've raised from infancy. The training is for safety and mental stimulation. But they could be soldiers. With proper training, creatures like this could serve the Council. Fight against pirates, guard installations, hunt dangerous criminals." Rax fixed Alex with a hard stare. "We would pay well for them. For all 5 and for your expertise in training more." Alex felt something cold settle in the chest. "They're not for sale. Everything is for sale at the right price. Not them. They're not weapons. They're living beings." Rax studied Alex for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "You care for them, good. Warriors should never be treated as mere tools. But consider our offer. The galaxy is dangerous. Creatures this powerful could save lives." After the Krell departed, Alex sat with the 5 Ravagers in the enclosure. They sensed Alex's distress and pressed close, offering their presence as comfort. Pip laid a massive head on Alex's lap, churring softly. "I won't let anyone take you," Alex promised. "You're not weapons. You're family." 2 weeks later, everything changed during a routine evening. Dark clouds rolled in from the east, bringing the kind of storm that made colonists secure everything and stay indoors. Wind howled around the research station, and rain fell in sheets so thick that visibility dropped to almost nothing. Alex was checking the enclosure seals when it happened. A massive lightning strike hit the power distribution hub, and the entire research complex went dark. Emergency systems activated, but there was a gap. 3 seconds when the electronic locks disengaged. 3 seconds was enough. Scout, always the curious one, nosed open the enclosure gate and wandered out into the storm. By the time Alex realized what had happened, the Ravager was gone into the darkness. Alex grabbed a tracking device and ran into the colony proper, shouting Scout's name into the wind. The storm swallowed every sound. Emergency lights flickered on across the settlement and Alex heard screams. People had seen Scout. The colony's security channel exploded with panicked reports. A Ravager loose in the market district. Citizens locking doors and hiding. Director Hayes's voice cut through the chaos with cold authority. Security team authorized to neutralize the threat. Lethal force approved. "No!" Alex screamed into the radio. "Don't shoot. I can get Scout back safely." "Alex, we can't risk civilian lives," Hayes responded. "I'm sorry." Alex ran faster than ever before in life, following the tracker signal in the trail of terrified colonists. Scout had wandered into the central market square, confused by the lights and noise and storm. Security personnel surrounded the area, weapons raised. The Ravager looked young and scared. Scales were raised in a defensive posture, and the creature backed against a wall, eyes wide. Scout had never been outside the enclosure, never seen crowds or weapons. The poor creature was terrified. Alex pushed through the security cordon before anyone could stop the approach. Weapons tracked the movement, but no one fired, not yet. "Scout," Alex called, voice calm despite the pounding heart. "Scout, look at me." The Ravager's head swiveled toward the familiar voice. Recognition sparked in those eyes. "Come here, Scout, come to me." Scout took a hesitant step forward. Security personnel tensed, fingers on triggers. "Easy," Alex said, speaking to everyone and no one. "Scout, sit." The Ravager sat. 200 kilograms of apex predator dropped onto its haunches like a trained dog. The watching crowd gasped. Alex walked forward slowly, hand extended. Scout leaned into the touch, churring with relief. Alex attached a lead to the collar every Ravager wore and began walking back toward the research station. Scout followed without resistance, completely calm now that familiar scent and voice provided reassurance. The crowd parted in silence. Over 200 colonists watched a human walk an apex predator through the settlement, like nothing was wrong. Children stared from windows. Security personnel lowered their weapons in disbelief. Ambassador Trill stood near the research station entrance, having emerged from the Council Liaison Office to witness the incident. The Kelson diplomat's antennae moved in complex patterns of amazement. "That should not have been possible," Trill said as Alex and Scout passed. "Why not?" Alex asked, not stopping. "Because my species would have run. Most Council species would have run. We are descended from prey. Our instinct when facing predators is fear and flight." Trill paused. "But you walked toward it. You commanded it, and it obeyed. Scout isn't an it, and we're family." Alex secured Scout back in the enclosure, checking the Ravager thoroughly for any injuries or stress. The other four crowded around, clearly agitated by their packmate's absence. Pip climbed onto Alex's shoulders, a position the Alpha still claimed whenever feeling protective. That night, Ambassador Trill sent a private message to the Galactic Council. The message included video footage of Alex walking Scout through the colony, and a detailed analysis of what the incident revealed about human-predator relations. The message concluded with a statement that would be quoted in council chambers for years to come. Humanity's evolutionary path as persistence predators has granted them an understanding of predatory species that prey-descended races cannot achieve. Where we see monsters, they see potential companions. This may be humanity's most valuable contribution to our galactic civilization. The 90-day trial period officially ended at midnight. The council sent their decision at dawn. The program would continue indefinitely, with increased funding and resources. The Ravagers were now recognized as a unique case study in interspecies relations, and Alex was appointed as lead researcher, with full authority over their care. Director Hayes visited the research station to deliver the news personally. He found Alex sitting in the enclosure, surrounded by 5 massive predators that dozed peacefully in the morning sun. Pip's head rested on Alex's lap. Scout sprawled nearby, apparently none the worse for the previous night's adventure. "You did it," Hayes said. "They're letting you keep them." "They were never mine to keep," Alex replied. "But yes, we get to continue the work." Hayes shook his head in wonder. "I thought you were crazy when you first proposed this. I told the council it was suicide. I've never been happier to be wrong." Alex smiled and scratched behind Pip's jaw ridge, right where the little Ravager liked it best. "They're good creatures, Director. They just needed someone to believe in them." "No," Hayes said quietly. "They needed you. Only you would have stepped forward when everyone else stepped back." In the enclosure, 5 Ravagers slept peacefully under human protection. They dreamed whatever dreams apex predators dream, and in those dreams perhaps they remembered the human who had given them a chance when no one else would. The wildlife patterns changed first. Alex noticed it during the weekly perimeter surveys, studying the tracking data from cameras placed throughout the jungle. Hopper populations had dropped by 30% in the eastern sectors. Larger grazers were avoiding areas they normally frequented. Something had disrupted the natural balance. "Could be seasonal migration," Dr. Wells suggested when Alex showed him the data. "We've only been on Reach 7 for 3 years. We don't know all the patterns yet." "Maybe," Alex said, but doubt gnawed at the gut. The patterns were wrong. Animals didn't abandon territory without reason, and they certainly didn't abandon it this quickly. The Ravagers sensed something too. They grew restless in the enclosure, pacing the perimeter and sniffing the air with unusual intensity. Pip stood at the eastern wall for hours each day, scales raised, growling low in the throat. The Alpha was on alert, and that meant danger. Alex found the first evidence 2 days later during a solo survey. Scorch marks on the ground where something had been stunned with energy weapons, disturbed earth where heavy equipment had passed through, and blood, dried and dark, belonging to some local creature that had been butchered and harvested. Poachers. Dawn Colony was remote, far from council patrol routes, which made it attractive to illegal operations. Reach 7 had several species with valuable biological compounds. Apparently, someone had decided the risk was worth the profit. Alex reported the findings to Director Hayes, who immediately contacted Council Security. The response was disappointing. The nearest patrol ship was 3 weeks away. Dawn Colony would need to handle the situation internally until help arrived. Security Chief Liu, a former soldier who ran the colony's small defense force, studied the evidence with a grim expression. Professional operation. Military-grade equipment. They'll be monitoring our communications and tracking our movements. Going after them would be dangerous. We can't just let them strip the ecosystem, Alex protested. We also can't risk colonist lives playing hero, Leo responded. We document everything, increase perimeter patrols, and wait for proper backup. That's the smart move. Alex wanted to argue but recognized the logic. The colony had 43 people, mostly scientists and support staff. They weren't equipped for armed confrontation with professional criminals. The Ravagers grew more agitated with each passing day. They refused to settle during rest periods, and their feeding responses became erratic. Something in the air, some scent carried on the wind, had them on edge. Alex spent extra time in the enclosure, trying to provide comfort through presence. That was where Alex was when the attack happened. Late evening, 2 hours after sunset. The power cut first, just like during the storm, but this time it was deliberate. Emergency lights failed to activate. Backup generators didn't engage. The entire research complex went dark in an instant. Alex activated a handheld light just as the enclosure walls exploded inward. Shaped charges, placed with precision, blew holes through reinforced barriers designed to contain apex predators. Figures in armor poured through the gaps, carrying weapons that hummed with stored energy. The Ravagers reacted on instinct. They scattered, confused by the noise and light and sudden violence. Scout took a stun blast to the flank and went down hard. Hunter leaped at one attacker but got hit mid-air, crashing to the ground unconscious. Swift lived up to the name, dodging 2 shots before a third caught the Ravager in the shoulder. Pip charged directly at the nearest poacher, jaws wide. The Alpha got within a meter before the stun weapon fired. Pip collapsed, still growling, trying to rise even as the stunning effect locked every muscle. Alex ran toward Pip, screaming in rage and fear. Something hit Alex hard from behind. The world spun, went dark, and consciousness fled. Waking was painful. Alex's head throbbed with each heartbeat, and dried blood crusted one side of the face. Pale dawn light filtered through the destroyed enclosure walls. The place was silent except for wind through the holes. The Ravagers were gone. All 5 of them. Gone. Alex staggered to the radio, ignoring the dizziness that made the world tilt. Director Hayes answered on the second call, voice tight with stress. Alex, thank God. We found you unconscious. Medical team is on the way. The Ravagers, Alex croaked. They took them. We know. The poachers hit 3 sites simultaneously. Grabbed several valuable specimens, including your animals. They're gone, Alex. Security tracked them to a ship landing site 10 kilometers east. The ship lifted off 2 hours ago. 2 hours? Alex's voice broke. Why didn't anyone wake me? You were unconscious. We didn't know if you had brain damage or internal bleeding. The priority was your survival. Alex closed eyes against the burning rage that threatened to consume all rational thought. 2 hours. The poachers had 2 hours head start. They could be anywhere by now, and the Ravagers would be locked in some cargo hold, confused and terrified. Pip would be trying to protect the others. Scout would be searching for an escape. They would be so scared. I'm going after them, Alex said. Alex, no. We need to wait for Council security. They have resources, tracking capabilities, authority to pursue across systems. You can't just... Alex terminated the connection and began gathering equipment. Survival pack, tracking devices, medical supplies, weapons. The research station kept a small armory for dealing with dangerous wildlife. Alex had never fired a weapon at a living target before, but right now that didn't matter. Dr. Wells found Alex in the equipment room, stuffing supplies into a field pack. This is insane. You can't track professional criminals alone through hostile territory. Watch me. Alex, listen to yourself. You're talking about walking into a poacher camp with no backup, no plan, and no real combat experience. You'll get yourself killed. Then I get killed. But I won't abandon them. They're my responsibility. My family. Wells stared for a long moment, then sighed heavily. You're really going to do this regardless of what anyone says, aren't you? Yes. Then you're not going alone. Wells pulled a weapon from the rack. I'm coming with you. And before you argue, remember that I served 6 years in Planetary Survey Corps. I know how to handle myself in the field. Alex wanted to protest to keep Wells safe, but the relief of not facing this alone was overwhelming. Thank you. They left within the hour. Director Hayes tried to stop them at the colony gate, but 7 other colonists stood there armed and ready. Technicians, botanists, cooks, people who had watched Alex raise the Ravagers from helpless hatchlings. People who had come to care about the 5 creatures that had changed everything. "We're going too," said Park, a young engineer who had helped build the enclosure expansions. "Those animals are part of this colony. We protect our own." Hayes looked at the 9 colonists preparing for an unauthorized rescue mission into dangerous territory. Protocol said he should stop them. Common sense said they would get themselves killed. But he had seen what the Ravagers meant to these people, and he understood. "Take extra ammunition," Hayes said quietly, "and come back alive. All of you." The tracking was easier than expected. The poachers had not bothered hiding their trail, confident that no one would pursue. Broken vegetation, equipment marks, and chemical traces from their ship's landing thrusters created a path through the jungle. They found the camp 6 hours later, hidden in a ravine, protected by portable shield generators and automated defenses. 2 cargo shuttles sat on a cleared landing pad, their holds probably full of captured animals. Armed personnel patrolled the perimeter with professional discipline. Alex counted at least 20 poachers, well-armed, well-trained, and completely prepared for trouble. This was a major operation, not some small-time criminals. "We need a plan," Wells whispered from their concealed position. "Direct assault would be suicide." Alex studied the camp layout, mind racing through possibilities. The Ravagers would be in one of those cargo holds. Drugged, probably, to keep them docile during transport. They would be scared, confused, separated from the only family they knew. "I'm going to create a distraction," Alex said. "Draw the guards toward the eastern perimeter. While they're focused there, you and the others disable the power generators. When the shields drop and the lights go out, I'll get to the cargo holds and free the Ravagers." "That's not a plan, that's barely a concept," Wells hissed. "What kind of distraction?" "The kind that makes them angry enough to investigate." Before Wells could argue, Alex moved, circling wide around the camp, approaching from the east where the jungle was thickest, finding a position with good sight lines to the perimeter guards, taking a deep breath to steady nerves. Then Alex opened fire. The shots went high deliberately, hitting the shield generator housings without causing real damage. But the noise and light brought immediate response. Poachers rushed toward the eastern side, weapons ready, searching for the attacker. Alex moved after each shot, never staying in one position, leading them deeper into the jungle, away from the camp. Behind them, Wells and the others crept toward the power distribution point. One of the poachers got close, too close. Alex barely dodged the return fire, feeling the heat of the energy blast pass centimeters from the head. This was real. These people would kill without hesitation. Alex fired back, aiming for the ground near the poacher's feet. The goal was distraction, not murder. Even criminals didn't deserve death for following profit. An explosion from the camp. Wells had done it. The power generators detonated in a shower of sparks, and the entire site went dark. Emergency lights flickered on but provided only dim illumination. Alex ran back toward the camp, ignoring the shouts of pursuing poachers. Reached the cargo shuttles and forced the holds open with emergency manual releases. The Ravagers were there. All 5 of them locked in individual containment cells. They were conscious but sluggish from sedatives. Pip saw Alex first and made a weak churring sound. "I've got you," Alex sobbed, fingers fumbling with the cell locks. "I've got all of you." "We're going home." The locks disengaged. 5 Ravagers stumbled out of confinement, drugged and disoriented but alive. They recognized Alex's scent, Alex's voice. They pressed close, seeking comfort and reassurance. The camp descended into chaos. Poachers ran in all directions, trying to restore power and contain the situation. They did not realize what they had lost until it was too late. 5 apex predators, drugged but angry, stood between Alex and anyone who approached. The Ravagers might have been slow from sedatives, but they were still dangerous, still protective, still family. Alex commanded them to hold position, to not attack unless directly threatened. The Ravagers obeyed, forming a defensive circle. Scout growled at approaching poachers. Hunter bared teeth in challenge. Pip stayed closest to Alex, still on guard duty even while fighting sedative effects. Security Chief Liu arrived with council forces 30 minutes later. They had received the tracking data Wells transmitted and rushed to provide backup. The poachers, faced with official authority and 5 very angry Ravagers, surrendered without further fight. Alex sat on the ground, surrounded by the Ravagers, checking each one for injuries. They were unharmed physically. Emotionally, they would need time to recover from the trauma, but they were safe. That was all that mattered. Ambassador Trill arrived with the council forces, surveying the scene with all four arms trembling. You did this. You tracked them, fought them, and recovered your animals against impossible odds. They're not animals, Alex said tiredly. They're family, and you don't abandon family. The journey back to Dawn Colony took most of the day. The Ravagers stayed close to Alex the entire time, unwilling to let their human protector out of sight. Pip rode on Alex's shoulders despite weighing over 100 kilograms now, and Alex bore the weight without complaint. Director Hayes met them at the colony gate. The entire settlement had turned out. 43 people who cheered as Alex and the Ravagers came home. Children waved from windows. Scientists applauded. Even the people who had initially opposed keeping predators near the colony showed relief and joy at their safe return. That night, Alex slept in the enclosure with all 5 Ravagers. They curled around their human protector, forming a living barrier against the world. Pip rested a massive head on Alex's chest, churring softly. Never again, Alex promised them. I'll never let anyone take you again. And in the darkness, 5 apex predators slept peacefully, knowing they were home. The summons from the Galactic Council arrived 6 weeks after the poacher incident. Formal, official, and completely unavoidable. Alex was to appear before the full council assembly to provide testimony regarding the Ravager program and the events surrounding their recovery. Director Hayes read the message with concern. They want you to testify in person. That means leaving the colony. Leaving the Ravagers. For how long? The council meets on Central Station. Even with fast transport, you're looking at 2 weeks minimum, possibly longer depending on how the proceedings go. Alex looked through the observation window at the enclosure. The 5 Ravagers had recovered physically from their capture, but emotional scars remained. They stayed closer together now, and any unexpected noise sent them into defensive postures. Pip had become even more protective, refusing to let Alex out of sight during waking hours. I can't leave them, Alex said. Not after what happened. You don't have a choice. The council doesn't make requests. They make demands. If you refuse, they could shut down the entire program. Dr. Wells entered the office with data tablets and an excited expression. Forget the council meeting for a moment. Look at this. I've compiled all our behavioral data from the past 8 months. Alex, what you've accomplished is groundbreaking. The Ravagers aren't just socialized. They're displaying empathy, problem-solving, and communication complexity comparable to Earth dolphins or corvids. They've essentially evolved behaviorally in a single generation through learning. That's impossible, Hayes said. Evolution takes thousands of generations. Genetic evolution, yes. But behavioral evolution through teaching and culture? That can happen in a single lifetime. Alex didn't just train these creatures. Alex taught them to be something new. Something that's never existed before. Alex studied the data, seeing months of work quantified in graphs and statistics, socialization scores, stress responses, cooperative behavior indices. Every measurement showed the same thing. The Ravagers had become fundamentally different from their wild counterparts. This is what the council wants to discuss, Alex realized. Not just my work with 5 animals. The implications for their entire civilization. The holographic testimony chamber on Dawn Colony was small, but the display showed the full council assembly. Hundreds of representatives from dozens of species, all focused on the human standing in the transmission field. Alex felt the weight of their attention like physical pressure. Ambassador Trill managed the proceedings with practiced efficiency. The council recognizes Alex Reed, xenobiologist and primary caretaker for the Ravager Socialization Program. You may present your findings. Alex spent 2 hours explaining everything. The initial rescue, the feeding trials, the bonding process, the training protocols. The data scrolled across displays while video footage showed the Ravagers' development from helpless hatchlings to coordinated pack members. The presentation concluded with footage from the poacher incident, showing Alex's rescue and the Ravagers' protective response. The chamber erupted in debate the moment Alex finished. Representatives shouted across the floor in dozens of languages, translation devices struggling to keep pace. A Torvan representative, a reptilian species descended from prey animals, stood with scales raised in agitation. This human has created weapons. Those predators could kill dozens before being stopped. We cannot allow this program to continue. Commander Rax, the Krell warrior who had visited months earlier, rose to respond. With respect, Representative, you misunderstand what we have witnessed. These are not weapons. They are proof that predators can be integrated into civilized society. My people have long believed that humans possessed unique qualities due to their evolutionary path. This confirms it. Humanity's ancestors were persistence hunters, pack coordinators, tool users who survived by understanding and manipulating dangerous animals. They carry those skills in their very nature. They are dangerous, another representative shouted. Predators cannot be trusted. Alex had remained silent during the debate, but this pushed too far. With respect, counselors, most of you are descended from prey species. Your ancestors survived by running, hiding, and forming defensive herds. That's shaped how you see predators. You see monsters because your evolution taught you that predators mean death. But humans evolved alongside predators. We competed with them, learned from them, and eventually partnered with them. Wolves became dogs. Wildcats became house pets. Horses became companions. We don't see monsters. We see potential. The chamber went quiet. Ambassador Trill's antennae moved in complex patterns of thought. A delegate from the Athani collective, a species of aquatic mammals, spoke carefully. You suggest that humanity is uniquely positioned to work with dangerous fauna, that your species' predatory ancestry grants you abilities our prey-descended peoples lack. I'm not suggesting superiority, Alex clarified. I'm suggesting difference. Your species excel at cooperation, social organization, and peaceful coexistence. Those are valuable traits. But yes, humans have a different relationship with predation. We understand it. We're not afraid of it the same way, and that understanding could be valuable. Another representative stood, a being whose species Alex didn't recognize. What you propose could reshape how the Council handles dangerous wildlife across hundreds of worlds. Currently, our policy is extermination or avoidance. Are you suggesting an alternative? Alex hadn't prepared for this moment, but the answer came clearly. Yes, I'm suggesting stewardship. Let humans serve as caretakers and intermediaries for species that other council members find too dangerous to approach. We can study them, socialize them when possible, and manage populations without resorting to wholesale extermination. The Ravagers have proven it can work. And if these creatures become weapons in the wrong hands? The Torvan representative demanded. If another human decides to train predators for violence, then we establish oversight and regulations, Alex responded. We create ethical standards and training requirements. We build safeguards, but we don't abandon the possibility because we fear the abuse. We make it work because the alternative is continuing to kill creatures that could be saved. The debate continued for hours. Representatives argued philosophy, ethics, and practical concerns. Some saw opportunity. Others saw catastrophic risk. The council was divided, and Alex could only watch as the future of the program hung in balance. Finally, Ambassador Trill called for order. The council will vote on a formal proposal. Establish the Interspecies Stewardship Initiative, a program managed by humanity, with council oversight to handle dangerous fauna across member worlds. Those in favor? The vote was close. 53 in favor, 47 opposed with 12 abstentions. Barely a majority, but enough. The proposal passes, Trill announced. The Interspecies Stewardship Initiative is hereby established. Alex Reed is offered the position of Program Director. Alex felt the world tilt. Director, leading a galactic program. Training others. Building an organization from nothing. It was everything Alex had worked toward. The validation of every choice made over the past 8 months. It also meant leaving Dawn Colony. Leaving the Ravagers, the realization hit like cold water. A position at Council headquarters meant living on Central Station, traveling to different worlds, managing operations across light years. The Ravagers couldn't come. They needed space, territory, the familiar environment of Reach 7. I need time to consider, Alex said. Of course, Trill replied. You have 1 week to decide. That night, Alex sat in the enclosure with the 5 Ravagers. They sensed distress and surrounded their human protector with comforting presence. Pip pressed close, churring the way the Alpha did when trying to soothe. Dr. Wells found Alex there at dawn. You're going to turn it down, aren't you? I can't leave them. Alex, listen to yourself. This is the opportunity of a lifetime. You could change how the entire galaxy treats predatory species, save thousands of creatures across hundreds of worlds, but you're going to refuse because you can't bear to leave 5 animals? They're not just animals. They're family. Wells sat beside Alex studying the sleeping Ravagers. They are family. And that's exactly why you need to let them go. What? Look at them, Alex. Really look. They're 8 months old and already approaching adult size. In another 4 months, they'll be fully grown. They're apex predators. Keeping them in an enclosure, no matter how large, isn't fair to them. They need territory. They need space to hunt, to establish their own ranges, to live as ravagers are meant to live. But they're socialized. They can't survive in the wild, can't they? You've taught them to hunt, to work as a pack, to assess threats and respond appropriately. You've given them every skill they need. The only thing stopping them from thriving in the wild is you, because you can't let go. Alex felt tears burning. I raised them. They trust me. What kind of person abandons that trust? The kind of person who understands that successful parenting means preparing your children for independence. You've done that. Now you need to trust what you've taught them. The week passed too quickly. Alex made the decision on the final day, standing in the enclosure one last time. The Ravagers gathered close, sensing change. I'm taking the position, Alex announced to Director Hayes and Dr. Wells. But first, I'm taking the Ravagers home. Back to the wild where they belong. They deserve the chance to live as Ravagers, not as permanent captives. Hayes nodded approval. When? Tomorrow. We'll travel deep into unclaimed territory. I'll spend a few days teaching them to hunt natural prey, showing them how to avoid traps in human settlements. Then I'll remove their tracking collars and let them go. That final journey began at dawn. Alex led the 5 Ravagers into wilderness they had never seen, dozens of kilometers from any colony or settlement. The Ravagers followed eagerly, excited by the space and freedom. Alex taught them to hunt wild prey, not the controlled feeding exercises from the enclosure. Scout took to it naturally, stalking and bringing down a large grazer on the second try. Hunter and Swift learned together, coordinating their approach until they succeeded. Steady proved surprisingly adept at tracking, following scent trails through dense jungle. Pip struggled the most. The alpha was smaller, less physically powerful than the others. But Pip was smart. The little Ravager learned to use terrain and misdirection, driving prey toward obstacles and ambush points. By the 4th day, Pip had made successful kills. On the final evening, Alex sat with them around a natural clearing. The Ravagers had eaten well, brought down their own prey, proven they could survive. They were ready. This is goodbye, Alex said, voice breaking. This is where you belong. Out here free, living the way Ravagers should live. Alex removed Scout's collar first. The Ravager looked confused but didn't resist. Then Hunter, Swift, and Steady. Each collar came off with a soft click, each Ravager gaining freedom. Pip was last. The alpha pressed against Alex, churring in distress. The little Ravager understood what was happening and didn't want it. You have to go, Alex whispered. You have to lead them. Take care of your pack. Be the alpha they need. The collar came off. Pip backed away slowly, eyes never leaving Alex's face. The other 4 waited, looking to their alpha for guidance. Alex stood and began walking back toward the colony. Didn't look back. Couldn't look back. Behind 5 Ravagers stood in the clearing, watching their human walk away. When Alex was almost to the tree line, Pip made a sound. Not a growl or a chirr, but something new, a call that echoed through the jungle. A goodbye. Alex kept walking. Tears streamed freely now, but the steps didn't falter. This was right. This was what love meant. Letting go so they could be what they were meant to be. The transport shuttle waited at a pickup point 10 kilometers away. Dr. Wells stood by the ramp, his face showing he understood what this cost. You did the right thing, Wells said. Then why does it hurt so much? Because you loved them, and love always hurts when you have to say goodbye. The shuttle lifted off, carrying Alex toward a new future. Below, 5 Ravagers stood in their clearing, watching the sky. Then Pip turned and led the pack into the jungle, into their new life, carrying everything Alex had taught them. They were home. They were free. They were ready. 6 months later, Alex stood before a class of 37 humans from 17 different colony worlds. They were young and old, scientists and soldiers, farmers and engineers. All of them had one thing in common. They had volunteered to become stewards for dangerous species across the galaxy. The Interspecies Stewardship Academy occupied a converted research facility on Reach 7, expanded to include training grounds, habitats for various species, and classroom spaces. Dr. Wells served as head of scientific research. Security Chief Liu taught threat assessment and safety protocols. Director Hayes managed logistics and council relations. Alex walked along the rows of students, studying their faces. You're here because you believe predators deserve more than extermination. You believe they can be understood, managed, and in some cases partnered with. But belief isn't enough. This work requires patience, dedication, and the willingness to risk your life for creatures that may never fully trust you. Some of you will fail. Some of you will quit. That's acceptable. What's not acceptable is giving up on an animal because it's difficult. These creatures deserve our best effort always. A student raised her hand. What if we can't connect with them? What if the bonding doesn't happen? Then you document why, learn from it, and try different approaches. Not every human will succeed with every species. I've bonded successfully with ravagers, but that doesn't mean I'd automatically succeed with every predator. You need to find your strengths and work within them. The morning lesson covered interspecies communication theory. Afternoon sessions moved to practical work with actual animals. The academy housed specimens from 6 different worlds, ranging from small ambush predators to massive pack hunters. Each required different handling techniques, different safety protocols, different bonding approaches. Alex supervised a student working with a juvenile striker, a raptor-like predator from a high-gravity world. The creature was fast, aggressive, and very intelligent. The student, a former colony guard named Chen, approached too quickly. The striker's crest flared in warning. "Stop," Alex commanded. "What did you miss?" Chen froze, analyzing the situation. The crest. "It's showing stress. Why?" "I approached from the wrong angle. I should have come from the side where it could see me fully, not from behind where I registered as a threat." "Good. Try again." Chen repositioned and approached correctly. The striker's crest lowered slightly. Progress. These small victories happened daily. Students learning to read body language, to move correctly, to earn trust from creatures that had every reason to fear humanoids. Not every session succeeded, but each failure taught lessons that prevented future mistakes. Ambassador Trill visited monthly to observe progress and report to the council. The Kelson diplomat had become the program's strongest advocate, defending it against representatives who still feared giving humans this much influence over dangerous fauna. During the most recent visit, Trill watched a training session with obvious fascination. "Your students show remarkable aptitude. 3 have already been assigned to field positions on member worlds." "They're good people," Alex agreed. "They genuinely care about the work." The council remains divided on this program. Many representatives fear humans are building a private army of predators. We're building relationships, not armies. There's a difference, I know. But fear is difficult to overcome, especially fear bred into species over millions of years of evolution. Prey animals see teeth and think death. It is instinct. Alex understood that fear. The program's biggest challenge wasn't training humans or socializing predators. It was convincing the galactic community that predators could be more than monsters. The communication console chimed with an incoming priority message. Ambassador Trill accessed it, antennae moving in surprise. "You have a new assignment. From the Veylan system, a clutch of predator juveniles. Orphaned when their habitat was destroyed by industrial development. The local government wants them euthanized. But council oversight has mandated assessment first. They're requesting you specifically." Alex studied the species data. Veylans were described as nocturnal pack hunters with complex social structures and highly developed problem-solving abilities. Dangerous but not mindlessly aggressive. Exactly the kind of species the program was designed to help. "How many juveniles?" 7. Ages ranging from 3 to 7 months standard. 7. That was more than Alex had handled before. The Ravagers had been 5, and even that had been overwhelming at times. But this was the work. This was what the program existed to do. "I'll leave tomorrow. Have a transport ready." That evening, Alex walked alone into the wilderness surrounding the academy. The jungle was dark and alive with sounds. Somewhere in this vastness, 5 Ravagers lived their lives. Alex wondered if they remembered their human caretaker. Wondered if they were thriving or just surviving. The question was answered when Alex reached a familiar clearing. The same place where goodbyes had been said 6 months earlier. Fresh tracks marked the ground. Large-clawed, unmistakably Ravager. Recent within the last few hours, Alex's heart raced. They were nearby. The pack had returned to this place, movement in the shadows. 5 shapes emerged from the tree line, massive and powerful. They had grown since Alex last saw them. Scout stood nearly 4 meters from nose to tail. Hunter's shoulders were thick with muscle. Swift moved with deadly grace. Steady approached with calm confidence, and Pip, still the smallest but undeniably the alpha, led them forward. Alex stood motionless, afraid to breathe. These weren't the juveniles from the enclosure anymore. These were wild ravagers, apex predators in their prime. They could kill Alex without effort. Pip stopped 3 meters away. The alpha's eyes studied Alex with intelligence that sent chills down the spine. Recognition flickered there, but also something else. Distance. Wildness. Pip had changed, grown into the role nature intended. Then Pip did something that made Alex's heart nearly stop. The alpha lowered its head in a gesture of respect and made that soft churring sound. The sound that meant family. The sound that meant home. The other 4 approached carefully. They didn't press close like they had as juveniles. They maintained the distance appropriate for wild creatures, but they were there. They had come when they sensed Alex in their territory. They remembered. Scout nosed forward and dropped something at Alex's feet. A small dead hopper, fresh. An offering. "Thank you," Alex whispered. "Thank you for remembering." The 5 ravagers stayed for 10 minutes, maintaining their respectful distance but clearly present. Then Pip made a low call and the pack turned as one. They disappeared into the jungle as silently as they had appeared. Alex stood in the clearing for a long time afterward, understanding what had just happened. The ravagers had come not because they needed Alex, but because they chose to. They were wild, free, and perfectly capable of surviving without human intervention, but they had taken time from their lives to acknowledge the bond. To show that what Alex had given them still mattered. That was success. Not dependence, but choice. Not captivity, but connection. Dr. Wells found Alex an hour later, still standing in the clearing. "I saw the tracks. They were here. They were. They're thriving, Wells. Everything we did, everything we taught them. They're using it. They're surviving and thriving. Of course they are. You gave them the tools they needed. That was always the goal." They walked back to the academy together. Alex had transport to catch in the morning, juveniles to assess in the Valen system, work that would never really end. But for the first time since leaving the Ravagers, Alex felt peace. The next morning, the transport shuttle climbed toward orbit. Alex watched Reach 7 shrink below, somewhere down there, 5 Ravagers hunting as a pack in the deep jungle. Living proof that predators could learn compassion without losing their wildness. The transport docked with a council vessel bound for the Valen system. Ambassador Trill was aboard, traveling to negotiate with the local government about the orphaned predators. "Are you ready for this?" Trill asked as they reviewed the mission briefing. "I don't know if anyone is ever ready, but I'm willing to try. These juveniles deserve that chance." The journey to Valon took 4 days. Alex spent the time studying everything available about the species. They were smaller than Ravagers, more social and highly vocal. Their society structure was matriarchal, with elder females leading packs of up to 20 individuals. The orphaned clutch had lost their matriarch to construction equipment. Without her guidance, they were doomed. The Valon government had already prepared the euthanization permits when Alex's transport arrived. The local representative, a bureaucrat who clearly saw predators as nothing but problems, showed Alex to the holding facility with obvious impatience. "These creatures have attacked 3 workers already. They're dangerous and need to be eliminated before someone gets seriously hurt." Alex studied the holding area. 7 predators, the largest barely a meter long, huddled in a corner. They were terrified, stressed, defensive because everything in their short lives had taught them that humanoids meant danger. "They attacked because they're scared," Alex said. "They lost their mother and have been held in captivity by beings they don't understand. Given the same circumstances, many humans would react violently too. They're animals. Dangerous animals. They're juveniles who need guidance. Give me 30 days. If I can't socialize them in that time, I'll recommend alternative placement. But don't kill them without giving them a chance." The bureaucrat wanted to refuse, but Ambassador Trill's presence carried council authority. The local government couldn't ignore it. 30 days. Not 1 day more. Alex entered the holding area alone. The 7 juveniles immediately went on alert. Their postures aggressive, their vocalizations threatening. The largest, a female with distinctive marking on her face, positioned herself between Alex and the younger ones, protective, maternal. She was trying to be the matriarch the clutch had lost. "Hey there," Alex said softly, settling onto the floor. I know you're scared. I know you've lost everything. But I'm here to help. I'm here to teach you how to survive in a galaxy that's afraid of what you are. The juveniles didn't approach, not that day or the next or the day after. But slowly, gradually, they began to watch, to listen, to recognize that this strange human wasn't a threat. By day 10, the smallest juvenile accepted food from Alex's hand. By day 15, 3 of them allowed Alex to touch them. By day 20, the matriarch female let Alex approach the whole clutch without aggression. Progress. Slow, hard-won, but real. Ambassador Trill visited on day 25. The local government is pressuring me to end this experiment. They say you're wasting time and resources on creatures that will never be safe. They're wrong. Look. Alex gave a simple hand signal. 6 of the 7 juveniles sat on command. The matriarch took longer, studying Alex carefully before complying. They're learning. They trust me. In another month, I could have them fully socialized. You don't have another month. You have 5 more days. Alex spent every moment of those 5 days working with the clutch, teaching, bonding, showing them that not all humanoids were enemies. The progress was visible, remarkable, but was it enough? On day 30, the Valon government representative arrived with euthanization equipment. Your time is up. The council experiment has failed. These animals will be destroyed today. They're not animals. They're people with different shapes, and they're not failures. Alex stood between the bureaucrat and the clutch. The 7 juveniles gathered behind their human protector, watching with intelligent eyes. The matriarch did something then that changed everything. She stepped forward and placed herself beside Alex. Not behind, not hiding. Beside, defending the human who had defended her clutch. The bureaucrat stopped, seeing 2 predators standing side by side with obvious coordination. This is impossible. These creatures don't bond with other species. They do when they're given the chance, when they're shown compassion instead of fear. Alex looked at the matriarch. Show them what you've learned. The matriarch turned to her clutch and made a complex series of vocalizations. The 6 younger juveniles responded with practiced precision. They demonstrated every command Alex had taught them. Sit, stay, come, stop, return, perfect execution. Perfect cooperation. The bureaucrat stared in disbelief. How? Because they're intelligent. They're capable. They just needed someone to believe in them. Alex knelt beside the matriarch. You can kill them, or you can give me authorization to relocate them to the academy on Reach 7. There I can finish their socialization and eventually release them to suitable habitat. Your choice. The bureaucrat looked at Ambassador Trill. This is what the council wants? To preserve predators? The council wants to preserve life wherever possible, Trill responded. To find solutions beyond extermination. This human has proven such solutions exist. The authorization came through that evening. The 7 juveniles would be relocated to Reach 7, placed in Alex's care, and given the chance to live. The bureaucrat left muttering about wasted resources and council overreach. Alex didn't care. 7 lives had been saved. 7 predators would get the chance to grow, learn, and eventually find their place in the galaxy. The transport journey back to Reach 7 gave Alex time to work with the clutch in a less stressful environment. The matriarch, whom Alex named Grace for her elegant movement, proved to be highly intelligent and deeply protective of her adoptive family. She learned commands faster than the Ravagers had, and she taught the younger ones with remarkable patience. When the transport entered Reach 7 orbit, Alex felt something settle in the chest. This was home. This was where the work happened. Below, somewhere in the jungle, 5 Ravagers lived their free lives. Soon, 7 Valen predators would begin their journey toward the same freedom. The academy staff met the transport with prepared habitats and enthusiastic curiosity. Students watched as Alex led the 7 predators to their new enclosure. Dr. Wells documented everything for the research records. Security Chief Liu assessed the security requirements. Director Hayes pulled Alex aside privately. Another successful mission. The council is impressed. They're talking about expanding the program, establishing academies on 3 more worlds. Oh, that's good. More stewards mean more species saved. It also means you'll be busier. More assignments, more responsibility. Are you sure you're ready for this to become your entire life? Alex looked at the 7 Valen juveniles exploring their new home. Grace stood watch while the younger ones investigated every corner with boundless energy. They were safe. They were learning. They would survive. This already is my entire life, and I wouldn't have it any other way. That night, Alex filed a mission report with the council. 7 juveniles rescued from euthanization. Successful initial socialization. Projected timeline for full integration and eventual wild release, 8 to 10 months. The report also included a request. Approval to establish a permanent wild reserve on Reach 7. Protected territory where socialized predators could be released and monitored. A place where creatures like the Ravagers and the Valens could live free but not forgotten. The council approved the request 3 days later. Weeks passed. Alex trained new students, worked with the Valan clutch, and built the foundation for something that would outlast any single person. The Interspecies Stewardship Initiative was growing beyond what anyone had imagined. 3 months after returning from Valan, Alex received notification of unusual activity in the protected reserve. Remote cameras had captured footage in the deep wilderness. Dr. Wells brought the video file to Alex's office with barely contained excitement. "You need to see this. Camera 47, Eastern Sector. Recorded 2 days ago." The footage showed a clearing beside a stream. 5 massive Ravagers appeared from the jungle, moving with the confidence of apex predators in their prime territory. Pip led the pack, still smaller than the others but unmistakably dominant. They approached the water to drink, then something else appeared. A creature Alex didn't recognize at first. Small, quadrupedal, injured. It limped badly, favoring one leg, and moved with the desperation of prey being hunted. The Ravagers noticed it immediately. Scout's head turned. Hunter's body tensed. Instinct said chase, kill, eat. That was what predators did. But Pip did something different. The alpha moved forward slowly, approaching the injured creature without aggression. The small animal froze, trembling, knowing it couldn't escape. Pip lowered that massive head and sniffed carefully. Then Pip stepped back and made a low vocalization. The other 4 Ravagers relaxed. They didn't chase. They didn't attack. They let the injured creature limp away toward the water, giving it space to drink safely. They showed mercy, Wells said quietly. Wild predators showing mercy to prey. That shouldn't be possible. They learned it, Alex said, voice thick with emotion. They learned compassion from being shown compassion. And now they're carrying it forward, teaching it to the ecosystem around them. The video continued. The injured creature drank, rested briefly, and then moved away. The 5 Ravagers watched it go, then returned to their own business as if nothing unusual had happened. Alex watched the footage 3 more times, understanding the full weight of what it meant. The Ravagers hadn't just survived in the wild. They had brought something new into it, something that had never existed in nature before. Predators who chose mercy when they could choose violence. This needs to be published, Wells said. The behavioral implications are staggering. You didn't just socialize 5 individuals. You've potentially altered the ecological balance of an entire region. Predators who show restraint will change prey behavior, migration patterns, population dynamics. This is evolutionary pressure in real time. Or it's just 5 predators remembering what they were taught, Alex said. Either way, it proves the work matters. What we teach them doesn't disappear when they go wild. It stays. It shapes how they interact with the world. A student knocked on the office door. Director Reed? Ambassador Trill is here. Says it's urgent. Trill waited in the conference room, all 4 arms moving in patterns that indicated significant agitation. We have a situation. A colony world in the Outer Rim has requested emergency assistance. An indigenous predator species has been attacking settlements. The local government is preparing to eradicate the entire population. Over 5,000 individuals. Alex felt the familiar weight of impossible decisions. Why are they attacking? Predators don't usually target settlements without reason. The colony expanded into their breeding grounds. The predators are defending territory and young. The government doesn't care about reasons. They want the threat eliminated. How long do we have? 1 week before the eradication fleet arrives. I convinced the council to give you a chance to assess the situation and propose alternatives. But Alex, this isn't 7 juveniles. This is thousands of adults, fully wild, actively hostile. Even you cannot socialize that many creatures in a week. No, but maybe I can understand why they're attacking. And maybe understanding will be enough to find a solution. The emergency transport left within hours. Alex brought a small team. 2 advanced students, Dr. Wells for behavioral analysis and Security Chief Liu for protection. The journey took 3 days at maximum speed. The colony world was called Haven's Edge, though it looked anything but peaceful. Defensive walls surrounded the settlements. Armed patrols walked perimeters constantly, and in the distance, visible even from the landing pad, thousands of creatures circled in the hills. The predators were called howlers by the colonists. They were quadrupedal, covered in dark fur with powerful jaws and pack-hunting instincts. They looked something like wolves crossed with bears, and their vocalizations carried across kilometers. The colonial governor was a tired woman named Director Stone. She met Alex with obvious skepticism. "You have 1 week to solve a problem that's been escalating for 6 months. Forgive me if I'm not optimistic. Tell me about the attacks. When did they start?" 4 months ago. We expanded the colony into the northern valley to establish new agricultural zones. Within a week, howlers started raiding our perimeter. They've killed livestock, destroyed equipment, and injured 14 people. We can't live like this. Alex studied maps of the expansion area. The northern valley was marked as prime territory, rich in resources. What was in the valley before you cleared it? Forest, some rocky areas. We did ecological surveys. There were howlers, but not in unusual numbers. When did you do the surveys? 8 months ago. Standard pre-expansion protocol. Alex looked at the timeline. The attack started 4 months ago. What happens in howler reproduction cycles around that time? Dr. Wells pulled up the species data. Howlers give birth in underground dens during the cold season. Gestation is approximately 4 months, which means Wells's eyes widened. They were pregnant during your surveys. They gave birth in the dens you destroyed. Director Stone's face paled. We killed their young? Probably not directly. But you destroyed their breeding grounds and forced nursing mothers to relocate their infants. That's why they're attacking. They're not aggressive. They're desperate. That doesn't change the situation. We can't give up the northern valley. The colony needs that land. Then we need to find a compromise, somewhere both species can coexist. Alex spent the next 4 days in the field observing the howlers from a safe distance. They were magnificent creatures working together with sophisticated coordination. Their pack structures were complex, with clear hierarchies and communication systems. On the 5th day, Alex did something that made the entire team protest. Alone and unarmed, Alex walked into howler territory. The pack alpha found Alex within an hour. She was massive, nearly 300 kilograms of muscle and fur and protective rage. Her pack surrounded Alex in a loose circle, cutting off all escape routes. The alpha approached slowly, teeth bared, a growl rumbling deep in her chest. Alex stood still, hands visible, posture non-threatening. "I know you're angry. I know humans hurt your pack. But I'm here to help. I'm here to find a way for both our peoples to survive." The alpha couldn't understand words, but tone carried meaning across species. Alex's voice was calm, respectful, showing no fear and no aggression. Just presence. The alpha stopped 3 meters away. Her eyes studied Alex with clear intelligence. She was evaluating threat level, intention, purpose. Alex slowly lowered to a kneeling position, reducing height and presenting a less threatening profile. "I'm not your enemy. I'm trying to be your advocate." The standoff lasted 5 minutes. The pack waited for their alpha's decision. Finally, the massive howler made a sound that wasn't a growl. It was almost questioning, testing. Alex responded with a soft, low vocalization, not trying to speak howler, just acknowledging the communication attempt. The alpha turned and walked away. The pack followed. They didn't attack. They didn't threaten. They accepted Alex's presence and moved on. Dr. Wells nearly collapsed with relief when Alex returned to the observation post. "That was the most reckless thing I've ever seen you do. You could have been killed." But I wasn't, because the alpha understood I wasn't a threat. She's intelligent, Wells, they all are. They don't want war. They want their territory back. Alex spent the next 2 days mapping howler movements and den locations. The data revealed something crucial. The howlers didn't need the entire northern valley. They needed specific areas for breeding, hunting grounds for food, and migration corridors to connect their territory. The proposal Alex presented to Director Stone was simple. Reduce colony expansion by 20%, preserving the critical den sites and primary hunting grounds. Establish protected corridors that allow howler migration. without intersecting colony infrastructure. Implement warning systems that alert both humans and howlers when they're entering contested areas. You want us to give up land we've already cleared? Stone asked. I want you to share land in a way that prevents extinction. Yours or theirs. The howlers are willing to coexist if we respect their basic needs. But if you proceed with eradication, you'll kill 5,000 individuals and permanently mark humanity as the species that commits genocide for farmland. Is that the legacy you want? Stone studied the proposal for a long time. The Council will support this. Ambassador Trill is already drafting the oversight agreement. The Council wants solutions, not massacres. The eradication fleet was turned back 2 days before arrival. The colony implemented the new boundaries with surprising speed. Within a week, howler attacks stopped completely. The predators had their breeding grounds. The colonists had their expansion. Both species learned to share the world. Alex stood at the new boundary marker on the final day, watching a pack of howlers move through the protected corridor. The alpha female paused, looked back toward the human watching from a distance, and made that same questioning vocalization from their first meeting. Alex responded with a low, respectful sound. The alpha dipped her head, almost like acknowledgement, and continued leading her pack into the wilderness. Another success, Ambassador Trill said, approaching from the colonial side. You prevented a massacre and established peaceful coexistence. The Council is very pleased. I just helped them understand each other. The howlers and the colonists both wanted the same thing, safety and territory. Finding a compromise was the easy part. Easy? Trill's antennae twitched in what might have been amusement. You walked alone into a hostile predator pack's territory and convinced their alpha to trust you. Most beings would call that impossible. Most beings see predators as monsters. I see people wearing different shapes. The transport journey back to Reach 7 gave Alex time to document everything. The howler solution, the behavioral observations, the successful negotiation between species. All of it would become training material for future stewards. When the transport entered Reach 7 orbit, Alex felt the usual pull of home. Below, the academy waited with new students, new challenges, and the continuing work of building bridges between humanity and the predators the galaxy feared. But something had changed. The work wasn't just about saving individual creatures anymore. It was about changing how the entire galaxy thought about predators, about showing that coexistence was possible, about proving that compassion worked better than extermination. Alex descended to the academy and found 30 new students waiting for orientation. They came from 20 different colony worlds, bringing their unique perspectives and skills. Some were young, fresh from university. Others were older, changing careers to pursue this calling. All of them shared the same quality: the willingness to step forward when others stepped back. Welcome to the Interspecies Stewardship Academy, Alex said, addressing the assembled group. You're here because you believe predators deserve more than fear and death. You're here because you see potential where others see monsters. You're here because when 5 orphaned hatchlings needed a caretaker, and everyone else refused, you're the kind of person who would have stepped forward. The students listened with intense focus. Some nodded. Others smiled. They understood. This work will be hard. You'll be scared, frustrated, and doubted by people who think you're wasting your time. But you'll also experience connections that transcend species. You'll save lives that everyone else condemned. You'll build bridges across evolutionary boundaries millions of years old, and you'll change the galaxy one creature at a time. That evening, Alex walked into the wilderness one final time. The familiar clearing waited, bathed in moonlight. The place where everything had ended and begun. 5 shapes emerged from the shadows. The Ravagers approached in the same careful pattern from months before, maintaining distance but clearly present. Pip led them, the alpha moving with the confidence of a creature who had found their purpose. They stood together for a few minutes, predators and humans sharing space in comfortable silence. Then Pip made that soft churring sound, the one that meant family, and the pack turned to leave. But this time, before disappearing into the jungle, Pip looked back one final time. In those intelligent eyes, Alex saw understanding, recognition, and something that might have been gratitude. The Ravagers vanished into the darkness, returning to their wild lives. Alex stood alone in the clearing, understanding that this was how it should be. They were free. They were thriving. They remembered kindness but didn't need it anymore. That was success. That was love. Letting them go so they could be everything they were meant to be. Alex returned to the academy, where work continued building the future. Training students, rescuing orphans, negotiating coexistence across dozens of worlds. The Interspecies Stewardship Initiative had grown beyond anything imagined on that first day, when one human stepped forward for 5 helpless hatchlings. Other species in the galaxy had their strengths: mathematical brilliance, artistic mastery, technological innovation, diplomatic finesse. Humanity's gift was different. The ability to understand predators, to see past teeth and claws to the intelligence beneath, to build trust where others saw only danger. It was a gift born from humanity's own predatory ancestry, from millions of years spent hunting and being hunted, from learning to respect the creatures that competed with humans for survival, from understanding that predators weren't evil, they were just trying to live. And now humanity used that understanding to save the creatures everyone else feared, to prevent extinctions, to build bridges, to show the galaxy that predators could be partners, not problems. 5 ravagers had started it all. 5 orphaned hatchlings that needed a caretaker when no one else would step forward. 1 human who refused to let them die. From that single choice, everything else had grown. An academy, a movement, a new way of thinking about humanity's place in the galactic community. And somewhere in the deep jungle of Reach 7, 5 apex predators lived free, carrying the lessons of compassion into the wild, teaching the wilderness that even predators could show mercy. That strength didn't require cruelty, that the human who raised them had given them something more valuable than survival. They had been given the choice to be something better, and they chose it every day in every decision to let the weak pass unharmed, to hunt with honor, to protect without dominating. That choice echoed through the ecosystem, changing it in ways that would take generations to fully understand. And it all started because one human looked at 5 dangerous hatchlings and saw not monsters, but family. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy. Not weapons or technology or conquest, but compassion, understanding, the willingness to step forward when everyone else stepped back, and the wisdom to know when to let go.